Hi guys, so I know I haven't been doing many videos recently, which I apologise for. I've really been missing doing videos, and so I'm hoping to get back in the routine of filming and uploading regularly. And I have lots of things I want to talk about in the coming weeks, so hopefully you'll be seeing a lot more of me and I'll be seeing a lot more of you. So I said in my 2018 goals video that I was going to do quarterly updates about my goals, and then the other day I basically just decided I'd quite like to do an update now. Now that doesn't mean I'm going to do one every month, I'm not sure. I'm going to see how much I enjoy doing it and you guys enjoy watching it, and then I may carry on doing monthly ones, we shall see. But I decided that because I'm not doing monthly wrap-ups anymore, I'm just doing lots of reviews, and I'm not going to mention every single book I read anymore because some books I just don't have enough to say about. If you do want to know every single book I read, you can always follow me on Goodreads because I keep that up to date with every book I read and when I pick it up and things like that. But I thought it might be interesting to do a wrap up at the moment because I've come up against some things that I didn't expect to happen in regards to my goals, and I think it'll be interesting to sort of see the live process of me ironing those things out. So I will link the goals video up here, but in brief, if you don't want to go and watch it or if you've seen it and would like a reminder, my two main goals are both focused on reducing the amount of books I own that I haven't read. I had 208 books at the start of this year that I owned and hadn't read, and my aim was to get that down to 100 books by the end of 2018. So I was going to do that in two ways. One was to make sure that every month 9 books out of those 208 were either read or unhauled. So I may manage to read a book and that's great, or I may start a book, DNF it, unhaul it, and that counts towards the 9, or I may get to the end of the month, not manage to read 9 or DNF any, and think, oh dear, I have to choose some books to get rid of. And so I was hoping it would force me to read more of the books I owned rather than library books or new books, because there was this element of having to give these books up if I didn't get to them. And the other part of the goal was to, if I did haul books, which I was hoping to do a lot less, to put a post-it note on those books when they came into the house with a 6-week deadline, and I had to read those books within 6 weeks, so I didn't let books languish on my shelf for years like all the others have. So yeah, I initially at the start of the year felt really excited. I still feel really excited. I haven't done quite as well as I hoped, but I feel like that's been more because I just haven't read a lot in January, and I'm still sort of in slump phase, and I don't know why that is. I sort of feel like reading easier books, whatever that means, and when I actually look at my shelves and confront the sort of reader I am, I realise that lots of the books I have are literary fiction, tend to be a bit bleaker. They're not about happy families or happy moments, and I just feel like reading stuff that's a little bit brighter or easier to get through at the moment, and therefore I've not been reading as much, and I'm okay with that, but it means that I haven't managed to hit the ground running with my challenges as much as I may have liked. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about the hauling situation first. So in the month of January I hauled, how many? 5 books. I received 2 from publishers for review and I bought myself 3. I've only managed to read one of those 5 books so far, and that is one of the ones I bought, and that is 3 Things About Elsie by Joanna Cannon. So I only managed one of the 5, and 2 of those 5 that I was sent from publishers I have to read by the 8th of February because that's when my 6 weeks is up, and I haven't started them yet. So I'm reading a book at the moment, I'm going to finish it today, and then I just have to force myself. I mean, they're great books, I really want to read them, to bang through them. So I'm not going to go into what those books are because I'm not doing hauls anymore, and it's pointless because you guys are going to see them very, very soon in my hauled, read, reviewed videos, so there's no longer any need for me to do hauls. But yeah, not a brilliant start. 5 books is way less than I was acquiring last year each month. Each month I would acquire at least 10, but sometimes close to 20. So 5 is definitely an improvement, but I didn't manage to read them quite as quickly as I would have liked. So there's that. Then I read, I think, 1 or 2 books that just didn't count. 1. So I listened to an audiobook called The Shell Seekers by Rosamund Pilcher, just because it was January, I had the January blues and I felt like reading something a bit easy and cosy It's one of those books, it's quite old-fashioned, I had quite a lot of issues with it, but it was a nice easy read to listen to. So it didn't count towards my read hauled, read reviewed, or towards the 9 books I currently owned. And then in terms of the books I owned, I'm going to quickly go through the ones I managed to clear off my shelves. So we have the new Jim Crow Mass Incarceration in the Age of Colourblindness by Michelle Alexander. And we have Sweet Girl by Travis Mulhauser. The Beginning of the World in the Middle of the Night by Jen Campbell. Folk by Zoe Gilbert. And The Mermaid and Mrs. Hancock by Imogen Hermes Gower. So if you were counting, that's only 5 books and not 9. So yeah, it didn't start out brilliantly. However, I came up against a couple of hiccups. The first hiccup being that I thought that every single book I owned I had on Goodreads. So I have a Goodreads shelf called Books I Own That I Haven't Read Yet. And that's how I keep track of all the books I haven't read. And that's how it's always so easy for me to tell you exactly how many that is, or so I thought. So I picked these 2 books up, and after I got a little way in, I thought, oh, I'll go on Goodreads and I'll add them to my currently reading. And when I searched my Goodreads shelves for them, they were not there. And it turns out that I must have a few books, I'm guessing it's not just these 2, I have a few books that came into my home and for whatever reason I forgot to add them to my Goodreads shelves. I thought I did it really well. I thought whenever I filmed a haul video I then went and sat and added them, but however it's happened, some books have slipped through. So this was my first conundrum with my new system. The question is they are part of my bookshelves in a physical sense, and so therefore they should really count towards the 9. However, the maths I have done of 9 times 12 will get me down to 100 books is based on the books I have on my electronic shelves on Goodreads. So I won't get down to 100 books if I do it based on the physical count, because there could be like up to 10 books that I haven't actually added. So I decided to be harsh with myself and to not count these books, which obviously makes life a little bit more difficult for me. So I'm hoping this won't happen very often. I think I'm pretty good at keeping my Goodreads shelves up to date, but yeah, so we shall see. So 2 books to mention here, and actually one of them was a DNF and then one I am still reading. So the DNF was Mem by Bethany C. Morrow. This doesn't come out till May, and I started reading it and got about halfway through and wasn't really enjoying it. And to be honest, if it had been one of the 9, I'd probably have just been like, you've got 80 pages to go. You know, force yourself to finish and it will count towards your 9. But I want to really stop doing that. I'm trying to be really harsh on myself at the moment about when I'm reading a book and it gives me no joy, and I'm just forcing myself to pick it up because I'm like, it's not a bad book, it's okay, just read it. I don't want that anymore. If I don't feel like picking a book up, then I want to stop, because I just want to read books that give me joy and that I want to, you know, I want to be able to sit down and have a read rather than being like, oh, better get to that one. So this was a DNF and it doesn't count towards anything. And then I'm currently reading Why God is a Woman by Nin Andrews. So I'm going to carry on reading it, really enjoying it, but it won't count towards my 9 because for whatever reason, I forgot to add it to my Goodreads. So that means I still have 4 books that I need to get rid of in order for me to get to my target of 9 for January. So I started reading On the Black Hill by Bruce Chatwin right at the start of the month, and thought I would really enjoy this book. It's about 2 brothers who are born, I think, in the early 1900s in Wales, and it follows their lives from the moment their parents meet all the way up until they're in their sort of 80s. And I thought I'd really enjoy it because it's quite slow, but actually because it has to follow like 90 years, there's no real depth to the story. It just goes from moment to moment to moment to moment, and I just found that it just felt like a long list of things that happened in these people's lives, and it didn't really have time to pause and talk about emotions or landscape or things like that. So yeah, I decided that because I'm not reading books anymore that don't bring me joy, I was going to stop trying to force myself to really enjoy this one. I don't think this is a bad book by any means, I just don't want to spend time with books anymore that I'm not really loving. So this counts towards one of my 9 because sadly I'm going to not keep this book. So then I had to choose another 3 books to get rid of as well. Now one of these was a bit of a challenge because I started reading All My Puny Sorrows by Miriam Taves in late November, early December, and this was in my last 5-star TBR predictions video. Thought I was going to adore it. I got about 60 pages in, really not liking it, and I thought, do you know what, maybe it's just your mood, how you are with books at the moment. Maybe it's a bit too bleak, it's about suicide, maybe give it another chance and put it down. And I put it on this pile of books that I'm sort of currently reading, but not really currently. And whenever I look at it, I don't feel the urge to pick it back up. And I know it's going to be one of those books that just sits there for 6 months. And maybe I've not given it much of a shot. But, you know, I went and had a look at some negative reviews after I started reading it and not enjoying it. And all the negative reviews were saying things that I was thinking. This is one of those books where I really think it's me and not the book. I just don't like the tone. Lots of people said this was quite funny. I don't like the humour. It grates on me. I found the 2 main characters quite sort of intellectually pretentious. I felt like I just was being held at arm's length from them. So I've decided to not give this another shot and to just accept that it's just not for me. And it could be an amazing book, but it's not going to be an amazing read for me. So this is one of my 9. So then I had to get rid of 2 more, and I decided to get rid of 2 flash fiction collections. They've been sitting on my shelves for a couple of years, and to be honest, I don't really like flash fiction. I bought these in sort of a spur of the moment shopping spree online and treated myself to a few flash fiction collections from the same publisher. I think there's 3 others of which I've read them and only liked 1. And I've had a glance at these and I'm just not particularly interested. I think I'll just read them and be like, they're alright. So I've decided that I'm gonna remove these 2. So I managed to stick to my rules. I've got rid of 9 books off my shelves and I feel fine about it. It wasn't difficult. I think it will get harder along the way though, because at the moment there's loads of books to choose from. So if I have to remove some books from my shelves, there's a lot of choice. And as we go, I'll have weaned out those books that I'm not quite as interested in, and then it will get harder and harder. However, I do think I had a really bad reading month. I didn't read much at all, and I think in most months I'll be able to manage 9 quite easily if I don't haul too much. So yeah, I've made February a bit difficult for myself because I have 4 books that I hauled in January that I've still not read, that need to be read because of the date stickers on them. And I've also got a few pre-orders coming in February that I really want to read, and then I need to read the 9. So February's going to have to be a really reading heavy month, which I'm actually happy about because I think I've just got out of the zone of reading really regularly, and I think perhaps I am just going to need to force myself back into it, and then it will become a natural thing for me again. So yeah. Do let me know if you enjoyed this sort of style or whether you just rather see, because if I was going to do it quarterly, I wasn't planning on telling you the actual books. I was planning on doing it sort of high level and just telling you the targets I managed to hit and how many I had to unhaul and all that sort of thing. So it's just whether you prefer it monthly with more detail in terms of the books I read and why I chose to get rid of them and things like that, or whether you'd be happy to just see quarterly with just the numbers really. So yeah, thank you for watching. I really enjoyed doing this, and I really enjoy watching when other people do videos like this. So do let me know if there's any channels you know of that do sort of challenges like this, because I find them really fun to watch. I don't know why. I think it's the list obsessed person in me loves the sort of challenge of the numbers and things like that. So yeah, thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next video.